Welcome to a tale woven with threads of danger, desire, and the supernatural. I'm AC Dawn, your narrator and author of Crystal Clear, a paranormal Halloween novella. I plan to release a chapter each day leading up to All Hallows Eve. Keep in mind, this isn't your typical professionally produced audiobook. It's a personal reading and a chance for you to hear the story as it echoes in the mind of its creator. If you're eager to leap ahead and hear the entire tale, you can follow me on my Ream subscription for free and gain instant access to the full recording. But for now, let us take our first steps into a world where ancient evil stirs and the fate of humanity hangs in the balance. Chapter 5. The wind rose around me, blowing my hair across my face. I glanced over my shoulder and stumbled to a stop. A roaring vortex of wind and magic bore down on me, with Jason right behind it. A summoning spell, undoubtedly sent by my mother, but far more powerful than anything she could do on her own. Wind tore at my hair, pulling me into its grip. The intensity frightened me. The entire coven must have been supporting the spell, which meant my mother wasn't just pissed I was late for the meeting. Ordinarily, she'd pour on a guilt trip, but this was something else. Something was very wrong, and it didn't take second sight to know that it had something to do with an ageless, very impatient vampire king. My mother and grandmother always knew when I was in trouble, and their witchy radar was undoubtedly going crazy under the current circumstances. Jason's voice reached me over the howling wind. "Adelaide Buckley, if you have seen the past, then you know the future. We must prevent Mariana from rising. Only you can do this." "If I could, I would," I muttered, and changed direction, stumbling toward the vortex. The tree branches whipped in a frenzy, and the air filled with leaves and debris. Swirling winds wrapped around me, and I blew out a sigh of relief. If I could get back to the coven, I'd be safe, and we could figure out what to do. Jason grabbed my arms as the wind swept me up. "Adelaide, don't run from your destiny. You are the only one who has the answers. The world's fate hangs in the balance." Oh, great. Just the fate of the world. My grandmother's message echoed in my mind. Do not hesitate. My heart hammered in my chest. The vortex pulled harder. I hung suspended in the air with my legs sucked up in the vortex's grip and my arms anchored by Jason's iron grasp. His gaze locked with mine. I'd woke up this morning thinking this would be a long, boring Samhain, full of comforting traditions and familiar rituals. But here I was, literally in the middle of a tug-of-war between my coven and the vampire king. I believed in legends, and as impossible as it was, I was living one. This was my chance to play the lead. Despite my fear, I had to embrace my fate. "I call the goddess of the night," I shouted my words over the roaring winds. "Cast your dark veil over me and cut the ties that pull me where I do not wish to go." In answer to my summons, the shadow's cold embrace closed around me. It obscured Jason's face, but he didn't let go. The vortex's grip lessened, weakened by the shadows cloaking me, but it wasn't enough. I summoned an opposing wind. It slammed into the vortex. Pain tore through my hips and back as Jason dug his heels in and put all his vampire strength into pulling against the tornado of magic. Tears stung my eyes, but I clung to Jason's arms and prayed to the goddess to help me. The shadows solidified around me, blocking out all light. The vortex shifted, unable to maintain its hold on me. Jason sensed his chance and pulled hard. My legs popped out from the grip of the swirling tempest, and I slammed down on top of him. I moved to roll away from him, but Jason wrapped his arms around me. "Wait, be still," he whispered in my ear, holding me tightly against him. Easy for him to say. I was lying on top of an incredibly hot, incredibly off-limits vampire. His unnaturally cool body contrasted with my heat. The blanket of shadows traced icy fingers down my back. It was like I was the molten core of a popsicle. Scrunching my eyes shut, I held my breath, praying I'd made the right choice. The vortex roared and moved restlessly, searching for me. Without a target, it withdrew. The winds died, and stillness settled over the graveyard. With a sigh, I relaxed, resting my head against Jason's shoulder for a heartbeat. They won't give up, but That will buy us some time." Jason didn't waste time on words. He launched to his feet, scooping me up with him. He sprinted through the night, spanning the backside of the cemetery in a heartbeat. Without breaking stride, he flung open the heavy metal door to a crumbling mausoleum and hurtled through the entrance. Jason sat me on my feet with a jolt and kicked the door closed. I gritted my teeth against the pain in my legs and back. "I'm gonna send my mother my chiropractor's bill," I muttered, trying to stretch out some of the discomfort. The door clanged shut and absolute darkness pressed in on me. I froze, afraid to move in the utter blackness. Putting my arms out, I groped for something to hold on to. I gasped when Jason pressed against me from behind, anchoring me to him. His hand settled on my hips, and a shiver ran through me that had nothing to do with fear. Cool and rock-solid, he felt as steadfast as the granite headstones. His voice floated in the blackness. "Relax, Adelaide. Open your mind and see Mariana's location." His words flowed over me, calm and reassuring, but I couldn't concentrate. My mind whirled faster than the vortex. Everything depended on me, and I was blind. Powerless, too inept to do the simple thing that every other woman in my lineage could do without a second thought. My heart pounded and my mouth went dry. "Lean on me. I will not let you fall," he whispered in the dark as he ran his hand up and down my arm. I kept my mental shield firmly in place as my traitorous body flooded with desire. Fearing more atrocious memories, I stood ramrod straight in his embrace, but his tingling touch weakened my resolve. "I don't want to see any more," I trailed off, not wanting to insult him. Yes, your unique gift. It is my belief, if you focus on your foresight, your hindsight will cease to function, and we need not worry you will take an inadvertent stroll down memory lane." He traced his thumb along my jawline. His voice drooped into a low, seductive murmur. "Just in case, I shall endeavor to think of only pleasant memories. Relax." Closing my eyes, I took a deep breath and leaned back against him. He murmured encouragement and kept me snugly pressed against him. I fought through the miasma of fear and desire that confused and revolted me. The ripples of pleasure from his touch overwhelmed my reservations. I relaxed into the vampire's arms and surrendered to my desire, strictly for the good of the world, of course. Jason hummed a low, throaty sound of satisfaction. "That's right, Adelaide. You are safe under my protection." His voice, lyrical and hypnotic, lulled me further. I'd had countless lessons to pry the blinders off my foresight. They'd been as effective as my attempts to cut back on my carbs. But I remembered the process. Calling the exercises to mind, I focused my intention and sought the veil to the world beyond. My head throbbed with the effort, and the spot between my eyes burned white hot. Behind my closed lids, a shimmering, shifting curtain appeared, swaying slightly in an unfelt breeze. With every ounce of my being, I willed that stubborn curtain to lift. "Come on, move." "I swear this thing is made of lead," I muttered. Behind me, Jason shook with silent laughter. Trying again, I envisioned my grandmother's curtains, sheer and gauzy, light as a feather. In my mind, I reached out and peeled it back, but it wouldn't move. I gritted my teeth and blasted it with the wind. It didn't so much as flutter. Desperate, I used scissors and then a knife, hacking away the fabric, only to have it fuse back together. My hands closed in fists as I ground my teeth together. Pouring my frustrations and fear into an imaginary flamethrower, I torched the stubborn fabric. It flared in a satisfying flash, but when the brightness faded, the curtain remained, taunting me. I slumped forward. The veil faded away as I pressed the heels of my hands against my eyes. Failure and shame colored my cheeks, making me grateful for the darkness. "It's no use. I can't see anything." The words came out on a sob, and I bit my lip against my tears. Ghastly visions rioted through my mind. My family and friends overrun by vampires. My stomach churned as my imagination blended the horrific scenes from Jason's memories with my impending future. It would be a massacre, and they'd all die because of me. Panic chased all rational thought from my mind. The vampire exhaled a single, slow breath. It tickled the back of my neck, and I shivered again, bracing for his anger. My teacher's frustrations usually boiled over at this point, but Jason continued to trace his fingertips up and down my arm. A tear escaped and trekked down my cheek. My heart galloped, spurred on by his touch. Fear and desire grappled for the upper hand as I stood, trembling against him in the dark. Out of ideas and out of time, I asked, "What are we going to do?" Jason stilled behind me, and the silence stretched. I struggled to hear it over the pounding of my heart. I dared not step away from him in the utter blackness. Goddess help me. The world's fate sat on my shoulders, and I was getting groped by a vampire in a crypt, and enjoying every minute of it. I wondered if there was going to be enough room for one more in this crumbling mausoleum. At the moment, it was even odds who was going to kill me, my mother or a horde of vampires. "I have an idea." Jason's velvety voice slid through the darkness, interrupting my half-hysterical thoughts. His hand splayed against my belly as he tightened his arm around me. Every inch of him pressed against my back, causing an explosion of pleasure that blotted out my spiraling self-pity. "I promise no harm shall come to you." He brushed his lips against my ear before dropping lower to kiss the base of my throat. Goddess, he was going to bite me. I could hear my mother's voice saying, "This is what happens when you choose a vampire over your coven." Fear spiked through me. I twisted in his hold, my thoughts racing. One bite. That's all it would take, and I would be... I couldn't even finish the thought. Sheer terror replaced the warmth of desire. No! I threw my weight against his hold, but his arm may as well have been forged from steel. In one smooth motion, he spun me around, pinning me to the crypt wall with his body. I thrashed, punching and kicking and snapping my teeth like a wild thing. "Let me go!" I screamed, the sound tearing from my throat. "I don't want this!" Jason captured my wrists, pressing them to the stone above my head. I bucked against him, but he held me, cold and immobile as a statue. Tears streaked down my cheeks as I faced my fate. "Shh! I promise to do you no harm," the vampire purred in my ear. "Please," I whispered, "I don't want to be a vampire." He shushed me again and pressed a kiss to the frantic pulse at my neck. His cool tongue touched the spot for the briefest of moments. Resting his forehead against mine, he brushed away my tears. "Trust me, Adelaide. This is for the best." Everything in me screamed to fight until my last breath, but as his mouth claimed mine, I fell willingly into the embrace of the vampire. Thanks so much for listening. As the shadows grow longer and Halloween draws closer, we will continue to unravel this tale of danger and desire. If you can't wait for tomorrow's chapter, you can follow me on my Ream subscription for free and unlock the full story right now. But if you prefer the suspense of waiting, join me again tomorrow for the next chapter. Until then, remember, the fate of humanity and a single heart hangs in the balance. Tomorrow, we venture further into the darkness.